what would quitting look like? If, for someone in the vortex, let's say you did raise your vibration, would you just know intuitively that now I'm enjoying myself at work, it's fine, and I simply want to drive around in a smaller version of the monster bus and have fun at 50?
It's never a good idea to say that it's always this way, but here's a general view. If you, from your unhappiness, quit, then there's temporary poverty sets in other words, because the dollars stop flowing. And that environment is usually not all that conducive to raising vibration, although you might feel freer in not having to put up with the unpleasant things that you've been putting up with. So usually things don't get much better. And after an interim of unemployment, there is usually the finding of another job that is pretty much at the vibrational level of the last one. Where if instead of quitting, you decide that you're going to raise your vibration, then one of two things happens. You raise your vibration to the point that something much more pleasing reveals itself to you. And so while you do quit, you quit not in the spirit of leaving something unwanted behind, but in the spirit of gravitating towards something wanted. And then there's no lapse in pay. You see? So the question, and of course that's pretty obvious. Everyone would rather have a new, shiny opportunity, whether it's a job or a relationship waiting, than leave something unwanted and stand in that lackful interim hoping for something else. In other words, we get how obvious the scenario is that we've laid out here. How the new job waiting is much better than the no job waiting. But what most people don't understand, that we understand so fully, is that the potential for something wonderful right where you stand is huge if you can find a different frequency. And what that brings forward, what we really want you to consider is, are you letting what is control the level of your vibration, or are you choosing the level of your vibration by meditating or by deliberately releasing resistance, and then allowing the vortex which has trained your vibration to a higher frequency to evoke or to bring to it the details of life that match that? That's really where we started here today, as you can think your way through all of this, which usually just overwhelms you and leaves you coming to conclusions that are not accurate, flawed premise after flawed premise. Or you can accept that you are a vibrational being, use your emotions to let you indicate as clear indicators of where you are vibrationally, make an intention to raise your vibration, which simply means release resistance. And as the vortex trains you into that higher frequency, you will be astonished at how many wonderful things will show themselves to you. There's a story Jerry used to tell about acres of diamonds. The story was that it was all right there in the backyard all along. Jerry said he used to use an expression, bloom where you are. And there are a lot of people that catch little snatches of that, but we want to give you the universal law basis for all of this. And what it is you are an emitter of a vibration that you have control over. But you, like almost everybody else you know, are doing a terrible job of controlling your vibrational emitting. You're letting what you're observing be your reason for it, you see. And in this chaotic environment where you are receiving so much feedback on so many different subjects at so many different vibrational levels so rapidly, most of you are in a sort of vibrational chaos. And most are creating by default. Most are having knee-jerk reactions to what they're observing and then complaining about what comes back in response. And when you get hold of it, when you realize that you can feel the way you want to feel even there at work. Now, Esther's been saying to Jerry, because they've had the advantage of this meditation CD for a bit longer than you all have had access to it. And they are totally addicted to it in the sense that they know every time, surefire, they're going to feel even better after they listen to it than they do before. In other words, it raises their vibration every single time. Because in every moment of every day, there's a new set of criteria about who they have become. And so once you start taking control of what you're doing vibrationally, and you start then noticing the results of having taken that control, you never want to go back again. And then you catch yourself in the earlier subtle stages of constructing something unwanted. They had a very interesting, chaotic, and ultimately satisfying book launch with this book. Esther said, isn't it ironic that this is a book about getting in the vortex, and the book launch itself jerked me out to the point of whiplash? Because the book was launched on November 15th, and on November 16th, no one could find a book anywhere. They sold out, and some of them were defective in some way, and that was when Esther found herself, what else could go wrong? Because everything that could go wrong went wrong with that book launch. Everything that could go wrong. The publisher didn't print anywhere near enough, and then when they were sold out, no one could get them. So it went from number 2 on Amazon. They were between George Bush and Wimpy Kid. For days and 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 days, and then suddenly no books available. Amazon took them completely off their website altogether. It was marked unavailable for now. And Jerry and Esther said, maybe we need to listen to that thing. In other words, uncontrollable situation, nothing that they could do anything about, certainly justified in the negative emotion that they were feeling, but everything that they were feeling completely contradicted everything they know and believe and everything that's written in that book. Because what's written in that book is you can control the way you feel regardless of whatever the current situation is. Whatever the current situation is, you can control the way you feel. Maybe not this red hot minute. You might have to write some scathing emails first. You might have to complain to your husband to the point that he wants to run away from home. In other words, we're not saying that you can do it this red hot minute, but ultimately what it comes down to is you have a choice. You can control the way you feel. And if we were standing in any of your physical shoes, we would not put up with negative emotion, not even for a little bit. And we would not ask one other person to do one other thing differently in order to try to support the way I feel. Because if the way I feel is dependent upon what a publisher does, or what a friend does, or what a neighbor does, or what a job does, or what an employer does, or what a friend does, or what a child does, or what a partner in a relationship does, if your happiness is dependent upon what one other person does, be very afraid. Because you cannot control what anyone else does, but you can control the direction of your thought. And so let us just say it to you softly. You may not be able to control it this red hot minute because you've got vibrational things going on, and law of attraction's bringing you more stuff like it, but you can eventually control it. You can eventually feel better. You can eventually get control of your vibration. You can eventually raise your vibration. You can eventually allow the vortex to bring you in. You can eventually do it. If not this red hot minute, you can eventually do it. And once you show yourself that you can feel better, and once you then see what feeling better yields to you in terms of manifestation, you say, I don't care how long it takes, because I wasn't waiting for the manifestation in order to have a response to the manifestation. I've learned how to feel good pre-manifestation. I've learned how to feel good right now. So the manifestation is irrelevant. How I feel is the only thing that is relevant, you see. And I got control over that. Getting more control every day, getting better at it every day, because I want to feel good. I want to feel good. Everything that I do, everything that I want, whether it's a material object, a state of being, a pile of money, a relationship, an enterprise, an empire, every single thing I want, no matter what it is, I want because I think I will feel better in the having of it. And we say, you can just turn one little thing. I don't have to have the manifestation of it to feel better. I can feel better now. I can feel better now. Because what's keeping me from feeling better is an opinion that doesn't square with the opinion of the source within me. So if I decide that person is not a good person, That's never going to square with the source within me. And I'm going to feel negative emotion, and I'm going to use that as my excuse to not get in my vortex for as long as that's my opinion. If I've decided that I'm not as good as someone else, that doesn't square with my inner being. My inner being knows different. If I feel unworthy, I'm always going to be out of sync with my inner being. If I think I can't do that, or I shouldn't do that, or somebody's better at that, every thought that you think, the emotion that you feel, is your indicator of how it squares with who you really are is, and what you really are knows, you see. So if you say, oh, I get this. I can feel my way into vibrational compliance with the successful source within me. I can feel my way into compliance. And we promise you, if you feel your way into vortexual compliance, the entire universe will comply with you and your desire. And time becomes irrelevant because it's all fun. Right? Did you hear that? Time becomes irrelevant. The gap won't bother you because it's all fun. It's fun feeling better than I just did. It's fun getting clearer than I just was. It's fun knowing more than I just knew. It's fun rendezvousing with others who know it too. It's fun watching the manifestational, co-creational dance that's coming in response to my improved vibration. How fun it is to mold this vibrational clay. It's fun to mold the vibrational clay. The manifestation is not the main event. The molding of the clay and the energy in your belly is.